All right, we are ready for the final finish and the final walkthrough of our conversations image. Whenever I do my retouch, rarely do I do it in one sitting like I do when I teach you. I look at it, I work on it, I come back to it, I ponder it, and that's why I kind of make these pictures prior to sitting down for you, so that I have done all the explorations, the thinking, the sort of massaging of the picture, because this is something that takes time. I rarely sit down and just do it. As you now know, there's a process to this. Part of my process is often to print my pictures out, and I usually lay it on the floor in my office, and I just look at it every day. Let it go a few days, and I look at it, check it out, look at it, and at the end, that print is full of scribbles, similar to what you see on the screen now. At the bottom, I write my thoughts about darker, lighter. Things and perceptions change, and I can sit here and retouch and think a picture is perfect, and I come back to it and I think, what was I thinking? It's way too dark, it's way too bright, way too much color. So there's definitely a process to this. So what I've done here on the screen is just mark up things that I need to attend when I sit down with the picture again. Now, this line of stuff right here I felt was just so symmetrical. So I want to take away some of these so it's not just a line of dots right through the middle. There's some retouch in here, there's some edge work here, small little things that I marked up. Here obviously there's a masking thing with the pillow. We're still going to work on the hair, and small little stuff that we need to take care of. So I'm just going to go through this real quick, and then at the end we're going to go through the picture pixel by pixel and make sure that it's all cleaned up. This is not going to take that long. I just felt when I was retouching this picture that it just went on and on and on and on, and I didn't want to bore you completely. So we're going to do that now. So if you're watching this piece, then great. We'll walk through it real quick, and we'll finish this up as it should be done. So I'm just going to do this just at the low opacity for now, so I don't get too distracted, but still know what I want to do. We're going to come down here pretty low to our back plate. I'm going to just start working on the things that's pretty simple, that lives here. So we have a retouch layer right in here. We have taken away some of this stuff already, and we're going to come in and work on that. For now, let's just turn off this layer, come down to our retouch layer. For this, I just think we're going to use our healing brush. All of these are pretty simple to use for this stuff. Just going to use the healing brush tool as a normal. So now you can kind of see that line that I was talking about. So I just want to make sure that that goes away. So again, this is super simple. If it would happen, which it doesn't. So let's see here. Why doesn't... So this is super simple. We're going to come to, if it just would happen, which it doesn't because we're on the wrong retouch layer. We're going to come to this retouch layer up here and just sample and retouch out. Again, when you use the healing brush, you hold down the option key. That will set a cloning point. So when I see this, I just put an anchor point and I brush over it. And this did not move now because I'm right in the middle of these two panels. So to take these, I would need to come down to this retouch layer, set my anchor point in a similar sort of tonality of a space, and then just paint over it. And this wall is so textured anyway that if it's repeating patterns or the small little things that goes on, it does not quite matter. What matters though is that this area right here is right in the middle of my retouch, or in the middle of my blend of these two plates. So it's a little funky right in here for sure. We're just going to go back and forth between these two retouch layers and start taking some of these out. I mean, I did choose this space because these textured walls, but I felt it was just too symmetrical. So maybe we'll keep some of these and retouch some of them out. Come back up to this retouch layer. All right, cool. Mission accomplished for parts of that. So let me see if we're going to move this file over. And then there's these handles down in here. What we're going to do is to come up to our adjustment layers. And I'm just going to turn all these off for now. I'm even going to just come on top here actually and just create a layer and make it brighter. The reason for this is that I want to see what I'm doing. It's so dark, it's hard to see any of this. So without it, this mostly goes away, but I do want to see it. I might even take away the crop line so that we can come in here and retouch some of this out. So again, coming down to our retouch layer, and I'm just going to take this out. In the beginning, I thought it was kind of cool that there was just cabinets sitting back here, but it just felt too much like an office. I'd rather have it feel like a shelf. And this is so dark. I mean, there's no way you're going to see what I'm doing here. So that was kind of that. And then we're going to turn that off. So on our layer here, I marked this spot up here. Not quite sure what went on up here. There's a bleeding right above here that we need to get rid of. So let's just find what that layer is. I'm just turning these off now because this might be some residue that sits way up there. So it's definitely part of, here we have it. So it's part of the door highlight, and this doesn't, there's no reason for this to be up there at all. So we're just going to come in and brush this away. Again, we select our layer mask, and then we sort of just brush that away. I'm going to come up here to my windows and brushes, and I'm going to turn off this shape dynamic. I usually don't have that on. I had it now because I've been exploring a little bit on how I would solve that hair issue that we've been running into. And I am going to just paint that hair in, to be honest. Not the best solution, but it seemed to be working for this photograph. So we're going to work on that in a minute. I mean, we're completely changing the shape of the door here, but I think it's fine. I'm going to take this and I'm going to stretch it a bit. I'm just going to line it up a little bit better with the door we have underneath. Just about there. Cool. So this started with me seeing mistakes up here, and then it ends up with me again exploring, doing my finish. And as I'm going to do my final touches, I will go through, as I mentioned, this picture pixel by pixel, and you will then see that this is stuff that would be discovered. See this edges right in here as well as we go through it all. The reason for me turning the filters or turning the layers on and off like this is just to get me a sense of what's underneath, right? To see what's underneath there. So none of this is needed. This is all just residue that we have in here. And let's just try to start over with this and just cut it in the middle. And then maybe it's a matter of just moving it over to line this up a little better. Not just a matter of moving it, we're going to stretch it even more. Push it this way and push it this way, and see if we can line up the edges of the door a little bit better. Cool. Way better. Way better. So then we're going to blend it. Going to hit number 2, which will give us 20% opacity, and then just softly take away some of this density difference right in here. Again, this was all done because I wanted this really awesome highlight up there. I don't know why I fell in love with it, but I do feel a stronger highlight there is good for the picture. I'm going to come back and do it the other way. So In erasing the mask, we will see more of this piece where the mask is on. I hit number 3 to give 30% opacity up here and just, erase a little bit back into it. I think that would do it. There's a little bit of residue up here. I'm going to take that off. All right, so this edge I have along here is a little sharper than the edge on the door underneath. So we're going to select this edge. Oh wow, still bleeding into it. I wanted to select this edge here, but this edge is not that great for selecting to use. So let's just come in with a brush then, really soft, and just see if we can bleed the edge of the door that's underneath a little bit through here to just soften the edge as we go down. Again, it's about how light bleeds really between edges, and in this case, with a little bit of softer depth of field, softer focus, this is definitely a bit of a softer transition underneath. So there, I think that will do it. Cool. It's a little bit of a funkiness going on there, but I don't think that's on my layer. You see it exists right in here as well. So this is a true light bleed. So I'm just going to live with that. What I don't want to live with is this discrepancy in height up here. So you're going to come and tweak this layer even more. I'm going to come up here and then we're just going to squish it down. I know we've been stretching it out, but we're going to squish it down as well. Just right in here somewhere. That feels a lot better. Yeah. And what I think we'll do is just to brush this whole part out. Use the original door right up here. Nice. Feels a lot better. So let's come back here to our layer and let's just look at some of this. And I'm just going to erase out what we've done. So 100% opacity up here, I'm hitting my 0. I'm just going to erase out these, just so we kind of know what we have accomplished. I looked at this edge right here, felt a little funky, and then quite of a big thing that we talked about earlier is the sharp focus of this and the soft focus in front of it and the soft focus in back of it. So obviously this got to be blurred so that the two pieces blend together, so there's a natural fall off. Right in here there's some masking issues, so we're going to take care of that as well. So we're going to turn that off. This layer is still on, and I like it. It's better to retouch this stuff and it's a little brighter and we can see a little bit better what we're doing. Let me see, let's move over and take care of this part here first. I'm going to turn that off. Since we're working on the door, why not finish that up? And as I see now, this is not so bad anyway. It kind of belongs to the first door. So let's look at the layer behind it and see if it's an issue with, putting in this guy plate. Not so bad either. Let me see, there could be one more reason for this harder edge here. So let's come in and see if we could find our back wall plate here. And now we see it's the back wall plate that causes this crisper edge here. So let's come in and see what we could do about that. We're going to come into our selection and we're going to feather this selection a little bit. We're going to modify it and feather it. And we're going to do maybe 2 pixels. We're going to hide it. And then we're going to come in here to the mask and we're going to erase inside of it. And you see this mask just softens up beautifully right away. You can maybe just do that all the way around. Cool. Feels a lot better already. So let's just look at this and see what we've done. I'm going to come up on our history here and just do this and this. So let me see. It worked really well here, but not so well on his hands. So we're going to come back here to our feather, this part of what we did, and then we're going to redo some of that. I'm going to come to our door and not do it on his hands this time, only along the selection. And I'm sorry about the ladies talking in the background. They are doing housekeeping rounds outside my hotel room door here. All right, cool. I think that's all we should do here. I like the crispness of this better than what I accomplished prior, so just gonna do that. So you see this back wall here do have some issues right in here as well. So why don't we just look at that? I'm gonna make a crisper line right about there. So I tried to erase, didn't quite like it. I'm just going to expand this a little bit, and I do expand my mask by using the brush tool, painting black on the mask, which means we will see less of the layer that has the background wall to it. I don't mind maybe a highlight there, comes from this right here. So maybe we'll do it a little smaller, like that. Okay, cool. Let's zoom out. Better. I'm going to turn off this curve layer that makes everything brighter for us to work with. And I think we've done pretty well. I'm going to turn that back on. Next part we're going to look at is this piece. And we're going to make sure we soften that so that we have something that feels a little bit more congruent with the focus that we have throughout the frame. Here we come into our hallway folder. And let's just look at this. Here is our lamp. I'm just going to take this and copy it for now. And I'm going to call this for lamp blurred. And we're going to come to our filter, blur, Gaussian blur. I'm just going to play with this till we find something that feels pretty good. All right, so we're going to come up here to blur, Gaussian blur, and we're just going to play with this till we find something that we like. All right, so I think right about here is decent. Maybe we'll just do it up a tiny bit, maybe 2 pixels. Too much. Take it down to 1.9. And we're going to hit OK. This is a little bit too non-textural now since we've added a blur to it. So you want to come back in. And I wonder if we, for now, just going to take this grain layer and you're going to just copy some of it and see if that will do what we need to get done. I'm going to copy. We're going to come down to our hallway picture, put it here, and then we're going to Command Shift paste, and here we have our grain, and I'm going to put this onto overlay. Now, by putting this on overlay, which is the original layer blending mode that we used when we added 50% gray, when we created that layer, and we connect it down in here, we will have only the grain structure applied. So let's zoom into this. This is what we had, and it's blurry. This is the texture we want to match on the left-hand side here. And this is our new layer. And it's a lot better. I think what we could do maybe is maybe even double this up. And now we're even closer. So I'm just going to tone this down a tiny bit there. Cool. Feels a lot better. All right, so let's see what we had. I'm gonna turn this on. Crisp and sharp. We blurred it, got to mushy, and we added grain to match the sides. So perfect. Now that we blurred this lamp behind, you can see these crisper edges really start standing out. So we're gonna sort this edge out right here. I'm doing things now a little bit piece by piece. In the end, we're going to go through every quadrant of the picture, and then I could clean this up as well. But since it's right in front of us, we're going to do this now. So here's our bed layer, and we're going to come in here. I'm just going to use a brush. We're just going to brush some of this away. Cool. Done. Now that I turn this on and off, I see we have some bleed in here from the Tia layer. So I'm going to turn there's my bed, and here Tia is bleeding into this, which we don't want. So we're going to come here to Tia, and I wonder if it should just come underneath into there, and just maybe brush this out. In the next chapter, we're going to talk a little bit about how we blend things in Photoshop, and it's truly using contrast, using color, and density. So as we mask these pieces out, we got to match, the tonality and the feel of it as well. But we'll talk more about that in the next chapter, as this one doesn't have too much about it. But this one really is about is creating imagery that tells a story that you want to do. And I kind of did not quite get it when I photographed this piece, and I created a lot of extra work for myself, but I think there's a lot of learning in this. So hopefully you get a sense of problem solving using the computer, trying to find solutions afterwards that will really work for the story and the image that you want to create. So now we sorted that edge out, we're going to sort out this edge, which is something that I had circled over. So this is our bed, and this is the issue that we want to solve. Again, we select our mask, we use our brush, we make the brushes smaller, and we just brush this out. Just like that. Cool. This edge here feels a little sharp, but I think it's okay. Especially when we zoom out, I think it'll be fine. So we're going to come to our bed here, and let me see. Come up to Tia, and I think this is the layer exactly that has these masks on the stilts or the frame of the bed. So we're going to select this, we're going to come in here, and we're going to hold down our control key, and oops, we're going to be in our selection tool. Control key, feather, and this we're just going to feather 1 point. And then we're going to invert this and hide it, and then see if we can, we need to invert it back, and then hide it. And then see if I could soften up these edges a bit to take away the white there, just to make this feel a little bit more believable. So just by default, I always have my left hand on the keyboard to use all the shortcuts that I'm used to. So now you saw me just shifting here to 20% just to do a little softer brush as I fine-tune these edges a little bit. We talked about this in the initial introduction to the tools that I use. When I have a selection and I feel it's not quite right when it comes to the whiteness you saw, I usually just feather that selection, and then I can paint into it, just brush and brush and brush until it feels a little crisper and a little bit closer to where I want it. So again, the same process that I used there to take away some of that. Here we see the toast bleeding into the metal, which we don't want. So we want to come into our paintbrush, we're going to deselect and then come in here Just paint that in like that. Cool. Some slight issues here as well. Nice. Okay. There's some discrepancy down here, but let's see what happens when we turn on our crop layer. Definitely something going on down here, and I did mark that as well. It could be as easy as lifting our crop up, or we could just find the probably a curve layer that creates this deep edge for us. So let me see. We're going to come into our layer 7, which is where we did our markup. We're just going to delete what we've done so far. We've done this. We've done these here. We've done this. So let's just try to find that mask. Obviously the easiest way would be to just lift our crop up, but let's take a look, see if we can find it. Often when you do adjustment layers and you move them around, you could get these edges like this. So I'm just going to come and just go through these folders and see which one of these is causing this issue. So it's on the Tia layer, we now know because I turned the bed off. And let's just try to find where that mask is. So we have all these different masks here. And what I'm going to do is go through them one by one. And now I haven't named them. And I'm going to go through them and just hit my backslash key. And I will see where the mask for each one sits. And we will be able to find this one, which is causing this issue. So we want to mask this out. We're going to create a bigger brush. Hit our 0. And it's not causing all of the problems actually, it just did a little bit. So there must be another layer that has the same issue. I'll do this all the way down into the corner. And up along here. Alright, so we're going to continue the process then until we find the other layer that's a part of this masking issue. Not this, not that. There. I want to make sure we do the same here, and this time we're going to do it a little differently. This is just for some highlights in the face, so there's no reason to have all this other stuff around it. We're just going to select this, Command-Shift-I, fill this with black, which now is red, and there those issues are gone. Cool. There. All right, then there's the issue right in here, and for this I think I'm just going to turn off our highlight layer. And by the way, I turned all these off. There's still some other color adjustments here, final color adjustments, but I usually take these off and I clean things up and I clone and all that stuff, because this stuff affects what's underneath, because this stuff sometimes affects what's underneath. So I'm just going to keep those off and maybe keep that on for now. Let's see. All right, so this is obviously a masking issue that should be pretty easy to fix. I'm going to turn that off. We're going to come to our pillow here, and then select our layer mask, erase, because I think we just want to see more of what's going on with this shadow here. I think that would do it. Let's see, maybe I'll take more. Right there, to that edge. So I talked about this earlier. It's really just trying to find these edges and find a place where all this stuff can line up. Honestly, it's gotten a little messy in here. So I'm hoping that this here will work okay. That's good for the pillow. Then there's this piece underneath here, which is on Tia, so you got to come in on her and mask her out a bit. I hope I'm not moving too fast here. I hope you've watched some of these other tutorials as prior to watching this finish, because I'm moving quite quick in order to move this along. So coming down to our main content layer, we come into the mask, we use a brush, and we just try to find an edge in here where we could blend things together a little bit better. Okay, better. Let me see. Way better. What I realize now, I wanted to zoom in, not out, is that Tia is a lot more yellow than the sheets are. So let's just solve that right away. I don't want her to change color, but I do want the sheets to blend better. So we're going to come into our quick mask, and we're just going to just roughly select the sheets that comes up this way. And then we're going to exit this. We're going to invert our selection. And let's just put it right above Tia, or maybe in here where we have all these unnamed adjustment layers. And we're just going to hit our blue layer. And now I'm just using the arrow keys to just push up on the blue. So this is before and after, and you see this area now blends better for sure. It wasn't just blue actually, so I'm going to come back on the blue a tiny bit. I'm going to come into our RGB and just make it a little bit brighter, because I think it's a brightness issue as well. Maybe it's also a little bit of cyan maybe in there, or didn't quite fit so with the blue. So maybe I just take away some red and add there. Better. And then we're going to do again some blue. Nice. That makes me quite happy. All right, beautiful. Down a little bit on the RGB. So this is always a dance like this. I always go back and forth and try my way. And this area here seems more yellow in the shadows than the top. So maybe it's a matter of coming into this curve and then masking some of that out so that it bleeds back into the Tia layer above, like that. Cool. It's a little bit of issues in here as well, especially with focus, because Tia seems a little bit softer than this in here. So let me see. Let's come back to our pillow. It's definitely an issue right there. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to try to do a little bit of focus work. So first, I'm going to soften that edge right there and let that bleed underneath this shadow. Cool. Nice. So it's the sheet underneath here that feels too sharp. And that's part of our bed. I see other flaws here too. We have erased parts of Tia, which we don't want to do. Right there. So we want to come to our bed. And I think this whole area actually could just fall out of focus. You see, this is softer here, and this is sharper there. So let me just zoom out a bit, and let's just look at what we have. All right, so we want to keep the focus here, but we don't want to keep it here. So we're going to come to our layer and maybe just select a square right about a little bit higher there. We're going to copy, and we're going to shift it in place, and then we're going to blur this. Again, using our Gaussian blur, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And 1.9 pixel is what we did for the lamp. So let's see what that does in here. My measure here should be this part, right? Because this bleeds over. And I think we hit it right on the head there. Sharper, softer, and it bleeds beautifully. So we're going to hit OK. Then now I see an issue right in here as well. You know, textures are going a little cross-eyed here. I'm going to come in and we're going to allow this to shine through a little bit better. Let's see if I turn this away. There's nothing underneath. So this is a part of Tia. So I'm going to come up to Tia. Where is she? Here. I'm just going to erase in. Let me see. Maybe she's way up here. I have two masks here. So it's on this masking layer here. I'm just going to give ourselves a little bit more of this. And then I'm going to turn the bed on here. I'm going to see if we could repair this in a little bit better of a way than what we had. That feels better right away. Allowing this edge here to change the pattern of the sheets. Cool. All right, this makes me happy. I think we solved a lot of stuff there, and we can erase this circle of issues that we needed to attend to. So we're going to come and take that away. Okay, got some skin issues. We did take care of these two down here. Gone. So let's see what we got here. It's just some simple dots. That's a masking issue. These are some simple retouching issues. So I'm going to come down into our layer for Tia. Let me see. I didn't name these. So let me see. I could create a new one. Create a new layer. Usually I like to name layers, retouch layers, so that I can just come back to and retouch on them. But since I don't have a name, we're just going to do this instead of trying to find another layer. So here we are. I'm going to turn off our layer 7. Cool. You're going to come in right here with our healing brush and just take some of this stuff away. Again, this woman in this bed is not flawless. So we don't want to make this too sassy either, but some of these skin issues we could solve just quickly using the healing brush. Cool. I think that does it. That was a pretty broad brush stroke for skin, but it looks good. So we can cheat that a little bit. This looks fine. Cool. Then there's these highlights here that just looks uneven and not well masked out. So I'm gonna come in here with a brush and see if we could just tighten this up a little bit. There. Cool. Doing this at a 30% opacity, I'm gonna increase it to 40. Cool. Done. Had an issue here as well, and this seems too soft. So I know we've been going through this edge now a few times. So I'm just going to see if I could find crispness of this edge here that makes it feel better. So as I turn this layer mask off, it's a matter of holding down the control key, which give you a drop down menu, and disable the layer mask. I see that I'm actually outside of what I should be masking. So I should have a tighter mask here, to be honest. So I'm going to come in with this brush and create the mask tighter rather than erasing outside of it. We're going to push into Tia and make this a little crisper. Better. We're going to select this, and then we're going to invert it and hide it, and I'm just going to crisp it up by using the mask and tighten that mask up. There. Cool. That feels pretty good. Then there's this pillow here, and I just created this line back here, and it's obviously got some issues, so we got to sort this out as well. Let me see. Might just keep Tia in there, and it's on our pillow layer. So I'm just going to turn this layer mask off. Again, it's holding the control key, get my layer drop down menu, and disable the layer mask. So this one I just completely created because I felt the pillow was way too big. So we got to fine tune this for sure, because now it's sharp here and it's soft here and it's really just messy. So we're going to come back into our layer mask on the pillow. And I'm going to use the same process. I'm just going to erase in some and brush away some, and just try to find an edge that's not perfect. Something that could feel organic enough to be the edge of a pillow. So I'm going a little quiet here, but this is kind of the process, right? Getting into the flow, just staring at the lines that I'm doing, trying to find something that doesn't look like a brush line, but looks like a pillow. And I think that pillow lines maybe are a little bit more abrupt as fabric folds, so maybe we'll do a tighter line there. I wonder if you could just let that outline of Tia come through here as well. Yeah, why not? And do this at 0%. Better. Maybe lead right into her eye. I'm not sure if that's distracting or not, but kind of cool. She has this blue spill on her eyes here, which I'm not really sure what to do about. It's a bluer light that hits this shadow, right? Because we had some blue gels on, and they create in the shadow this like bluer tones. So I'm gonna just sort some of those out at least. Cool. All right. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. I'm gonna take these away. We had some hair that I put in, but I don't think I like it anymore. So we're just gonna turn these away like that. Remember we put in some hair right here. As I went through the files and looked how I would solve this, I didn't really like it. So we're just gonna take those away. Cool, so I think we created a better pillow. It's not great, but better. Looking at this edge here, which is definitely better than the edge here. So let's make it a little bit tighter, a little bit crisper. So we're gonna use the same technique as I did when I finished up the outline you saw of Tia. So we're gonna come to our pillow, we're gonna select it. I'm just gonna maybe come up here, feather it by a pixel. I'm gonna Command-Shift-I for invert it. We're gonna hide it, come to our pillow, and we're gonna paint on the outside. And as I paint on the outside, the more I paint, the crisper this edge will be. So as I paint into it, you can just tell it's getting crisper as we get closer to the edges of the feather that we just did. So it's a little bit better, not perfect, but better. So I deselected, so I could just paint in here again. All right, I think that's okay for now. If I don't feel it's great enough, as I'm looking at it now, it probably isn't. I might actually take a real edge instead of painting this in. Let's see what we got. This is our real edge up here, way up here, because I turned it so much and made it larger. You could try to maybe copy this piece right in here. So copy and paste it, and then pull it down in here. And enable our layer mask. Oops, just gonna move this piece. Disable it again. Huh, it's kind of interesting. Maybe it comes down underneath here. So let's see. I like this way better. Grabbing an original edge there instead of using a different edge. So I'm going to come into our pillow. I'm just going to paint all this away. Now I erased. What we need to do is use our brush and paint this away. And I like this line here too. Now I realize there's another pillow underneath that's from the original bed. So maybe we just have to connect with that line instead of the original line. So maybe it sits right there. Let me see. Now I painted on this layer, which we don't want to do. So we're going to go back to our transform, paint on the mask, and this goes away. Nice. So when you have layers connected like these two are, the pasted edge of the pillow and the original pillow, when they're connected, this layer mask will affect both these. So I use this layer mask and this will go away as well. There. Now I gotta adjust this new pillow to fit with this older pillow, or make the other pillow fit to this new one. And I think I'm gonna do the latter because the light source is right here. So maybe we'll just make this part a little bit brighter. gonna select it by using the quick mask tool, exit the quick mask tool, Command Shift I, and then we're gonna come down to our bed, right in here, create another layer. I'm just gonna see, too bright, and it's definitely too blue, greenish, something yellowish. So there. RGB. Cool. So let's look at the bed for a minute. This edge here is not great either. So there. Better. Nice. I think we solved that pretty well. Cool. One more thing down. I'm going to come into my eraser. I'm going to erase these two things here. Here there's a little bit of something. So you're going to hear me talking about residue, and I used that word already. This is a little chip that sits on a different layer somewhere, and it's truly a part of bad masking somewhere. And this could be on the pillow layer, it could probably be on TIA, and there you see I turn TIA off and this shows up. So we need to come and take that away into our TIA mask, and not erase and undo that, but brush, and that part went away. We're going to do this there as well, and maybe this right there as well. So here you can see we just blended these two layers, right? They bleed into each other rather than having a perfect mask. So I'm going to just take a look at that here and look around, make sure that there's not other areas that we missed. Cool. Zoom out, turn off our masking area, and just look at our layer here and just erase the things that we already accomplished. Take these away, take that away, and we're kind of working our way up the picture. So I'm going to keep on looking. Kind of done that piece. There's some odd looking stuff right there, so I'm going to come in and look at our pillow again. I mean, this is not crazy bad, to be honest. The edge feels a little soft, so I'm going to come in here and better. Here's a little edge here that's not good. It's turning off the pillow. It's not the pillow. It's not TIA. And it can be gone away by using this bed layer, I think, and just giving us more of the bed layer. Nope. So then it's just to start finding this and turning, oh, it's on the pillow layer. So we got to come into our pillow and not erase, but brush, and take this away. Let me see. It goes away, but I don't see what it is. It must be a shadow somewhere here. It's a mask rather than content. So I'm just coming down these to try to find what it is. And it's our pillow shadow. So this got to go away. It's coming way too deep and too far up. So there. Gone. Cool. All right. Turn our bed on. This turned out to be a messy file. It's kind of fun though. Kind of fun. All right. So now with this sorted out, it's really just the hair that's left for Tia. And as you saw in the retouch, in the main one, I struggled a bit to get this in there. And I think what this part is really missing is a sense of the hair laying on top of the pillow, because now it's just tucked in there, and with no reference of hair coming over, it doesn't quite feel right to the eye. So what we're going to do is do something that I'm not a great fan of. That does not feel good to the eye always, but it seems to be the best solution since I don't have any great quality hair to layer on top of the pillow. So what we're going to do is to come in and paint on some hair. And I'm going to show you how here in a minute. First, we're going to take away whatever that piece was. It's just a hard edge right there, right in there. Huh. Maybe we could paint over it. So what we're going to do, this is the hair layer I had. I tried to play with this to create an edge so that the hair didn't disappear into it. But I think if I could just use some strands of hair that sort of comes on top of the pillow, everything will be a lot better. So we're going to come above Tia, and we're going to add this layer. We're going to come to our window. We're going to go brushes. And here we're going to put on shape dynamics. So let me see. So we're going to come up here to our window, do brushes, and in here we're going to put on shape dynamics. And what happens is that we get a thin line, thicker blurred, and a thin again. And I'm hoping that this will help, emulate the hair as we brush through it. So I'm just going to put this over here for now. And what we need to do when we do this, we need to have a slight difference in highlight. We need to have a slight difference in color, and we need to have a slight difference in brush sizes. So to create the differences in highlights, we're just going to sample. So by holding down my option key in the brush, I could just sample colors. And you see here how the foreground color changes. So we come up here and we just pick a color, maybe a little higher one, make our brushes smaller, and we're just going to softly paint in some of these highlights. You see these highlights here? See if we can create something that doesn't feel too far off. We're going to select a few that's darker, a little bigger, and just let this fall over. Now, it doesn't look so great now, but we're going to brush this in, and we're going to create, we're going to blur them, another color, and make them fit a little bit better to what we see up in here in the hair. All right, so I couldn't quite understand why I couldn't paint here, but I'm having this pillow edge that's sitting underneath. Pillow edge is cool because it helps quite a bit here, but we need to put our hair layer above it, right here. Now I gotta go, let me see, I gotta go back and undo some of this painting that I did. Just come up here, then we're gonna put our layer above the pillow edge layer, and the pillow edge layer is not perfect either. So as I look at it, we're going to come in, I'm just going to mask something here, right there. Cool. Then we can continue and paint some stuff onto Tia's hair. So essentially I'm just picking different tones and just extending her hair a little bit as if there's a little bit of something that would extend onto the pillows. I think that might be all we need. I don't want to overdo this because this is not my preferred way of doing things. Obviously my preferred way would be to find some real hair and not have this just be a little paint on. All right, so now that we've done this, this paint doesn't feel quite as textured as the hair, right? So we're going to zoom in, and the hair has a softness to it. It's not quite sharp in here. This obviously doesn't. And see, my color up here is not all that great. Let me see. I didn't mix it up enough. So I'm going to come in here, maybe redo some of this. Sample darker tones and let this spill onto the pillow. Cool. So, as I was saying, I'm going to keep this original. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to turn this off. Then we're going to blur this a tiny bit, and we're going to give it more texture. Just like we did when we blurred and gave texture to the lamp, we're going to do the same here. It's going to be a little bit more subtle though. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and maybe just 0.4. Too much. 0.3. I think that's better. And then we need to add some grain to this. So I'm going to come again up to our grain layer. I'm just going to copy what we painted on. Just zoom out a little bit. In these areas here. I'm going to take this and copy, Command-Shift Paste, which is pasting it in place. I'm going to pull it down to our hair layer, which is blurred. Connect the two. And then on this, add it to overlay. And then you're going to come in and see. It's just on these here. We're going to turn this on and off. And you can see there's a tiny bit of texture in it. Again, I'm not sure if it's enough. So we're going to do the same as last time. Double it up and no texture and with texture. It's subtle, but it's definitely there. So let's just see. I'm going to turn on the original hair. And you're going to this is what we had, and turn that off, and after it's blurred, there it is. It feels like it sits a lot better in there. So it's subtle, but I think it helps in getting a little sense of something going on and bleeding into the pillow. Again, I would probably sit here longer and paint more of these. This right here was not the greatest, but some of these here feels pretty good. So I'll probably continue this and blend some of these lighter ones. Okay, let's try it. Come in here. Now I got to come with another layer. So let me create a new one. Since I already blurred this, it's tough for me to go in and paint on here again with just this blurred brush. So I'll just do it on a separate layer. I'm going to take these and put them at a slight opacity and push them back a bit. Again, blur them a tiny bit. Now I could just go Command F or the latest filter, because that will be the 0.3 that we just did for the other hair. And I'm just going to try something else on these. I'm just going to go filter, noise, and add a tiny bit of noise. Cool. Maybe this one was too much. Maybe I'm just going to soften that up a little bit, just with an erase brush. It feels better. It's not 100%, but that would be the process. So now that I taught you the process of what I would do to fine-tune this, looking at it, I just got to take away that one really bright strand there. Just got to go. I would keep doing more of this here to match up there, maybe a little bit more down here. And it's too straight here, right? It should come up and follow the creases a little bit better within the pillow. And there should be some highlights and some darkness to it. So maybe I would burn this hair and lighten this hair. then it would sort of bleed more into the pillow. Again, I think that's it's a longer process, but now you get the idea of what I would do to make this happen. So we're also zooming in a lot at this, right? So there, feels pretty good. So you're going to leave that alone. The last part that I do to every file that I do, I started doing it, right? First, I marked every piece that I saw that I wanted to correct. I marked them up and we've been through all that. The last thing I do for every picture I finish is to take the file and I go through it at 100% always. Obviously I zoom in if I want to get closer to things, but at 100% I go through every little piece of the picture. So I start like this, I hold down my space bar so I get the hand, and I just start going through it. And I look through every single piece of this frame. So we're going to come down to our background, and it's probably this one here maybe. On this retouch layer, I'm going to take away this dot. There's another dot right here. This is on the bed layer. So you're going to come up here on the bed. What I would do when I have a smart layer, I would just come up here, create another layer, and just clone on that instead. There. Obviously there's this hair now that I still are looking at, but it's getting closer. This hair is not perfect right in here. So we're going to come down to our pillow. Maybe it's not the pillow. Maybe the pillow is fine. Let's do this. So essentially what I'm doing, instead of fixing the pillow here, I'm going to try to create a shadow that, I'm going to undo this, do that again. Entering the quick mask, and then create a shadow that this pillow on top would create on the sheets below. So there, and Command Shift I. Now this is on the bed. So I'm going to right in here among these adjustment layers, curve, pull down the anchor point, and as you do this, I feel the pillow starts to feel like it's laying a little bit better on there. There. It feels a little broad and then not so crisp as it should be, so we're going to come into our brush, make a smaller brush here. Now we need to turn off our shape dynamics. I don't really like to have it on for anything but special things. I'm going to turn that off. And then come in here. Eraser and get a broader shadow right there. Cool. Before and after. And I think we created something now that makes this pillow feel like it's more in there. Nice. Okay. And we're going to keep on going. This stuff we looked at, still not perfect. And part of it not being perfect is that I blurred this area. And now this corner here of this pillow looks too sharp. So I'm going to come into our pillow. Just turn it on and off. And I think here, since we're getting so close to, being finished, I'm just going to come to the original layer. Again, I think I should probably copy it and blur it on a separate layer, but I think this is a simple fix here. 30% strength, come into our blur tool, and we're going to do it right on here. And just once over, we take a look, once over again, and we just do this till we start feeling that this pillow just blends into the sharpness of this sheet underneath it. So let's see what we did here. That's before, and I could Command C and after. Before and after, and definitely a lot better. So, cool. I'm going to fine tune this mask in here a little bit as well. better. Nice. Okay, next square. We're just going to keep moving through the picture, looking for the things that we might have to fix. It's a little bit of a masking issue here, and her legs feels a little sharp, but the focus got to fall somewhere. So I think that's okay for now. We have these little dots in here, so we're going to come down to our back plate, open that up, our retouch, and just get rid of these little dots here. Maybe get rid of this one too. All right, there's definitely some focus issues right in here, and I think maybe the solution would be to maybe blur some of Tia's legs here. So maybe we'll do the same here with Tia as we did to the pillow. Just soften her up a little bit. I actually don't mind it. I'm going to keep the sharpness as is. Because if I start blurring this, I got to start blurring, you know, the middle hit right here as well. And I don't know, I get into this whole focus issues here with this back wall. And I think we're going to settle for that. Cool. All right. 27 goes away. That was just to help us see the shadow detail back in there. And we're gonna wrap that up. So that is my finishing process. Took a little bit longer, but I go through pretty much every pixel over and over. I live with the picture for a while. I reassess what I think I would do to make it better, come back to it again, take a look and come back to it again. So there's flaws to this for sure. I would spend more time on the hair, but you see the process. So I think I will leave you like that. So I'm going to do this for a couple more of these tutorials where we take the picture all the way to finish. Others, I think that you get the idea and you get the learning process and you know what that's like and you could apply that to your own pictures. So don't want to bore you too much more. I'd say thank you for being with me through this last little finish of this conversations piece. So thank you. Off we go.